Hey guys, it's DeathFromAbove and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at the second video you selected for the month of November, the review of the premium Tier 9 Japanese battleship, the Musashi, which looks pretty much like they've put the Yamato at Tier 9, same amount of guns, same caliber, they pretty much look exactly the same, but are they? Well, let's find out together, shall we? So let's compare the Musashi to a couple of other Tier 9 battleships, and most important, the Yamato. And we immediately notice that the Musashi has a very good amount of survivability for the tier, close to the Yamato in terms of hit points and torpedo damage reduction. Excellent torpedo damage reduction, 25%, and very good amount of citadel protection, only lower than the Friedrich der Grosse. Only the fire and flooding resistances are weak, and that's something that you will want to improve with your equipment setup. Do they have the same armor? Well, let's find out. So, let's take a couple of shots at them. I took 250 shots against the Yamato and the Musashi. The Yamato took around 750 damage per shot on average, and the Musashi 743, that's a little bit less, but we can say that they pretty much have the same armor. Okay, same armor, that's good, but what about maneuverability? Well, it's quite similar. The Musashi accelerates a little bit slower than the Yamato and turns a little bit faster, but that's very relative because it's still the worst maneuverability at Tier 9 if it wasn't for the Friedrich der Grosse. Just compare that to the Georgia and the Lion and the French battleship. The Musashi is not a maneuverable ship, just like the Yamato, but that's not why we are here. We are here to have a look at the guns, and that's where the ship starts to shine. You can see that the reload is a little bit higher than the Yamato on those very nice 46cm guns. The range is slightly inferior, but still very good for the tier. The HE and AP damage are a little bit inferior to the Yamato. That's giving us a DPM, not 49,000, slightly inferior, but still very comparable to the other T9 battleships, only beaten by the Alsace, and an excellent citadel damage rate of 300%. It is not uncommon to deal 6 or more than 6,000 damage per citadel. Okay, that's all very nice, but what about the accuracy? Are the two ships comparable? Well, let's find out. So yep, 400 shells fired at the same target with the two ships in stock configuration, and they do have a very similar accuracy. The Musashi landed 56% of the shells, the Yamato 58%. And that gets even better with the main battery modification tree, further reducing your dispersion by 7%, because then the Musashi manages to land 62.5% of its shots. That is absolutely an equipment you want to have on that ship. Okay, so we've got the same armor, we've got the same accuracy. In terms of secondaries, the Musashi gets a little bit more main secondaries with a really nice fire chance, but a very bad turret traverse, so it's going to be a challenge to get all 9 on targets. And the Yamato gets better auto secondaries, it gets more of them, 12 versus 8, so that comes to a pretty balanced picture overall. The Musashi does have a little bit less DPM on the mains and a little bit more on the secondaries, and the total is actually quite comparable and certainly very good for Tier 9. Where the Musashi starts to suck is in the AA department. It's got the worst at the tier, which is not the case for the Yamato. We can do reasonably well against air attacks. So where do those two ships finally differ? Because for the moment it's the same everywhere. There is one major difference, it's in the skills. The Yamato and the Izumo get precise aiming 2-3 charges, the Musashi does not, and that's going to have a major impact on your game because you will be a lot less efficient at sniping with that ship than you would be with, for example, the Yamato, who's very good at that. So you will need to get a little bit more aggressive, you will need to get a little bit more closer to your target to be able to land those 46cm shells, and let's see how that impacts our gameplay. So here we are, time for the gameplay. I did have quite a lot of footage for that ship because I really like it, I play it quite often, but I chose a gameplay with a really bad matchmaking to show you what that ship can do in less than ideal circumstances. Why is it less than ideal? Because you simply have a midway on the enemy team that can set us on fire very easily. We do have a couple of other tier 10 battleships, so Yamato and the Friedrich der Grosse, and finally 2 destroyers including a Shimakaze. That's something that we absolutely need to watch out for. Challenge with that ship, because you do require a lot of anticipation to play it well, because although you need to get a little bit closer to your target to do well, you cannot stay at range. Well, you can do it, but you won't be performing very good. You also do not have the maneuverability to support a very aggressive playstyle like you would, for example, in a Scharnhorst or in a Bismarck. So you need to be really careful with your positioning, and anticipation is the key. Let's see how we perform at range, like almost 14 kilometers with that Grosser curve first. Do we get a couple of hits? see that we do get 5 hits, that's very nice, but we also get a Shimakaze dangerous close to us. So we really need to be careful with that guy. I'm going to turn towards him, immediately start pulling back. If he decides to shoot his torpedoes, then I'm going to tell my teammates. If he decides to shoot his torpedoes, then I should be able to dodge quite a lot of them. So anticipation is really key, but he's not going for me, he's going after my Montana, and you can already predict how this is going to end up. I don't want to see this, I don't want to see this, and there we go. We already one battleship down. By the way, you see how the secondaries of the Musashi performed against that destroyer. They actually did quite well. You can reasonably count on them to deal some damage up close. And while we were looking at the Shimakaze, we completely lost track of the minimap. And there we go. What do we have here? A poor cruiser that got stuck on an island trying to torp us, and is going to be taking a salvo of the Musashi, and you can see how that ship really shines. It's when you get it within 10-12 kilometers of your targets. It's really a shotgun, you have to view it like a shotgun, so you're not going to be up close and personal like you would, for example, in a Bismarck. You are not going to stay at range like you would in a Roma or in a Yamato, for example. You are going to be somewhere in between, a bit like an Amage if you will, but you do not have the maneuverability to support that playstyle, so you need to be really careful. And here I'm going to show you what happens when you get quite close to a target. There you go, second kill for the Shimakaze, for fuck's sake. And there you go, let's hunt for that Neptune, and now we're going to find him. Jesus Christ, we move slowly, it takes us forever to accelerate, but there you go, look at what happens. Engaging with the secondaries and the main guns, and BAM! That's exactly what you want to be doing with that ship. It is excellent at that, and I'm going to try to finish him with the secondaries. I don't, but I do deal quite a lot of damage and set him on fire. And again, talking about anticipation, I completely forgot to anticipate that thing had torpedoes on both sides, and we're going to put 8 torpedoes into me. There is absolutely nothing I can do to avoid that, so we really want to be careful with the ship. And there we go, again, we've managed to get isolated from the rest of the fleet, so the CV is going to target us, but that's alright because we've got our deck protection, so we do not fear it. Again, some torpedoes, we've got excellent torpedo protection, so we do not fear torpedoes as well, at least not too many of them. And we're going to be engaging that midways at the range we want to be engaging in, around 10 kilometers, and third kill for the Shimakaze, that's... And there we are, that's the 6000 Citadel in action. So we've already dealt 60,000 damage in that game, and that's how I play my Musashi. You can choose to stay at range, you can do that, but you simply will not be as successful. So you simply need to be really careful on the way you decide to engage. There we go, another salvo into the midway, bam, 5 hits, another Citadel, 76,000 damage. That ship is absolutely excellent at that. And let's hunt for him. Let's hunt him down, let's see how fast we can finish him. I'm not afraid of him because I do have my damage control kit available. So that's right, he sets us on fire, I'm going to use it immediately. And let's see if we can finish him. Okay, let's see what happens. Only 4 shells this time. It's not, it's reasonably accurate, I would say it this way, but you do not have the precise aiming when you need it the most. But you do have those 46 centimeter shells that will absolutely obliterate anything that 5,000 damage. And we will probably finish him with our secondaries. Can we? No, it's still the main guns, and that's it. It's going down this time. So yeah, we've done our part. We've got 2 kills, but we've also managed to lost B, and our team completely collapsed at A, because that's where the enemy battleships went. So it's time to turn around and to see what we can save from this game. There we go, that's the Shimakaze, finally, and I'm telling my fleet mates to go at B immediately. Let's see how it happens when you engage him. The main guns are actually not doing that bad against destroyers, simply because they're, even if they did half the damage, it's still taking 600 damage out of them, because they're just such big guns. But the HE shells are also very good at dealing with destroyers. Again, you just need to anticipate as well, and let's see what happens here. Can we finish that Shimakaze and put an end to our misery, because that guy has been completely trolling us for the whole game. And there we go, the 9 shells are going on their way, and we do manage to land 2 of them for 2,500 damage, finishing the Shimakaze. Unfortunately, the game is not going very well for us. We are 2 bases down, and our destroyer managed to land a couple of torpedoes at the Shima, but he completely forgot to cap the base. And so now it's us and another destroyer, so again not an ideal situation with the Musashi, but let's see how we can handle this. We've already got HE loaded, so let's see how we can cope with that. I'm not going to slow down because I absolutely need to cap B, and there we go, that's the torpedoes from my destroyer. So let's see if we can put a couple of shells, and we do get really unlucky because the shells really land anywhere but on target, but we do have the secondaries and they are quite deadly against destroyer, but you do not want to get too close to these, but the game is already over anyway, even if we manage to get B now, and even we fucking don't because that guy is just coming out of it, so I'm going to have to cap B by myself, and that's what is actually costing us the game right now in front of you. That's the joy of playing solo and playing with teammates who are, well, quite unpredictable, I would say. And that's it, we're getting absolutely pounded by those 3 battleships, but we've conserved our points quite well, and we can actually land maybe one final salvo because going down I completely forgot to switch to AP. That's alright, we're going to shoot HE at Izumo, and we do get a couple of hits, and that's the end of the game for us. We do set the Izumo on fire, that's our second fire of the game with our secondaries, they're quite good for that, but unfortunately that is not enough to carry the game. So congratulations to the Shimakaze, you've made it impossible for us to win, you did an excellent job. And that's the end of the gameplay, 110,006 medals, we did quite well despite losing the game. And that just shows what you can achieve with that ship when you play it to its strength. You can choose to camp, base and snipe with it, you simply will not be as successful, and I think Dwarf Gaming did a really good job at, I'm not going to say balancing it, but changing the playstyle from the Yamato to the Musashi. It's an excellent ship, it's a very good ship, a ship that you should try getting, because here that was a tier 10 matchup. When you get that ship against tier 8 battleships, it absolutely destroys them. And but you will simply need to get a lot closer to your targets to be efficient, and you do not have the maneuverability to survive at those close ranges. You've seen me taking several torpedoes from a Neptune, and yeah, you simply have to anticipate and be really I would say cautious with that ship, but once you get it into the right situations, it's absolutely terrifying for the enemy team. And that concludes the Musashi guide. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed making it. I've spent almost more than 8 hours on it, compiling accuracy, armor testing, etc. Trying to giving you the most accurate advice before you decide to buy the ship, because it's certainly not a very cheap ship. But I hope you've enjoyed it. I've learned a couple of interesting things. I hope you now feel a little bit more confident about what you can do with it. So there you go, that's the objective of the channel. I'll be seeing you soon. In the meantime, stay safe, take care. That was DeathFromAbove, signing out.